June 4th, 1798. The Duchkov Castle in the heart of Bohemia. Giacomo Casanova breathed his last in this desolate place. Born in the Republic of Venice, he once traversed the courts of Europe during his prime. Armed with peerless beauty, intellect, and a silver tongue, he was the legendary libertine who toyed with kings and nobles alike. His name is now fixed in history, a mere synonym for the word womanizer. Yet, few have ever peered into the shadows of his final days. Years before his end, Casanova was invited by Count Waldstein to serve as a librarian at Duchkov Castle. Located in the far northwest of Bohemia, this was the absolute edge of the civilized world. He had been driven to this exile by the eroding power of age and the crushing weight of his banishment from Venice, a fate from which there was no escape. Life within the castle was a sequence of humiliations. The man who once electrified Europe was gone, replaced by a bitter, arrogant relic, mocked and despised by the servants who looked upon him. Within these confined walls, he achieved nothing save for the act of scratching his own past onto crumbling parchment. They say that on his deathbed, he would not release the hand mirror he clutched. It was a symbol of the exclusive, dark art of the Venetian glassmakers, the only vault of memories he had spirited away from his homeland. To him, this was no mere vanity. In 18th century Murano, mirrors held a meaning far beyond mere glass and silver. Rumors whispered among alchemists and craftsmen of the forbidden craft. The mirror was a vessel, a device that could inhale the soul, invert reality, and trap the unseen shadow within. Why did Casanova, in his final moments, cling to this cold, unfeeling glass instead of the saints? It was his final, desperate act of resistance against the irreversible violence of age. What did he see deep within that surface? And what did he seal away? The records of his flamboyant decadence are now buried in the history of a castle choked by dust. This is not merely a tale of a life ended. This is a chronicle of another life, one that began the very moment Casanova surrendered to death and stirred into motion within the cold, inorganic heart of the glass. Surrounded by the rugged mountains of Bohemia, Duchkov Castle, in the late 18th century, became more than just a sanctuary for Giacomo Casanova. It became a vast prison, designed to lock away his own past. Though the castle boasted an immense library, it was a space filled with damp silence, isolated from the light of the Europe he once knew. From 1785 until his death in 1798, Casanova spent 13 years within these walls. The man who once stood as an equal to the Count of Saint-Germain and Frederick the Great, the man who reigned at the pinnacle of Parisian society, was now treated as a mere hired hand. His daily existence was consumed by the monotonous labor of organizing the Count's books and cataloguing ancient manuscripts. The castle servants launched relentless attacks against this legendary libertine. They mocked his age and his haughty demeanor, playing cruel pranks on his meals and openly deriding him at every turn. For Casanova, humiliation became a seasoning more bitter than his daily bread. To preserve his fading pride, he obsessively transcribed his life's adventures, the tales that had once shaken Europe and the records of his countless affairs. The massive memoir, later known as History of My Life, was penned in the dark rooms of this castle as a lifeline to anchor his crumbling self-esteem. But when night fell, the atmosphere shifted. As the fireplace embers died and the castle corridors sank into deep darkness, Casanova would sit before his mirror. In his hand, he held the small mirror that still clung to the memories of Venice. If one were to examine the castle's blueprints, one would understand how claustrophobic his quarters truly were. Outside the window, the deep forests of Bohemia stretched endlessly, and the seasons brought nothing but a perpetual fog. In this confined space, Casanova stared into the face reflected in the glass, meticulously observing the process of time eroding his skin. The glass whispered to him. The gaze of the many women he had once locked eyes with through the mirror, the brilliant light of the ballrooms, and the scent of the Venetian canals, now lost forever. Through the mirror's reflection, these memories began to diverge, drifting away from the reality of the man he had become, old and decaying. Buried in the dust of the library, Casanova existed in this castle as a forgotten phantom, long before his physical death. He was not merely suffering from the frailty of age. He was gripped by a terror beyond understanding, the horror of watching his own life story being stripped from reality and forcibly transferred into the cold, inorganic heart of the glass. In 18th century Venice, Murano was more than a center of glassmaking. It was a prison of secrecy. In 1291, the Republic ordered all glass workshops to be moved to the island. Ostensibly, this was to prevent fire, but the true goal was containment. The craftsmen were forbidden from leaving. To export their secrets was punishable by death. The island was ringed by guards. The artisans lived within a glass cage. Their cristallo glass was the source of Venice's immense wealth. The masters were merely pawns, burning their lives away before the furnace. Yet this isolation bred a heretical alchemy. They discovered the dark secret of the mirror. A mirror does not just reflect light, it is a vessel. They sought to sear a subject's memories into the mercury backing. Their technique for soul fixation was forbidden. When mixing the ingredients, they added a concealed substance. Some claim it was soil from ancient graves. Others say it was the final breath of a dying man. During polishing, the artisans faced a strict taboo. They must never look away. The polisher had to stare into his own reflection. He poured the raw energy of his self-awareness into the glass. Through this, the mirror changed. It became a device that absorbed the soul. It preserved it indefinitely. Those who look into such a mirror see a reflection that trails reality. The image within grows, nourished by the viewer's passions. It keeps a youthful vitality, mocking the decay of the physical body. Casanova possessed a prototype from a master of these rituals. Desperate aristocrats often sought these mirrors of the soul. They paid fortunes for them, but they were found as broken, mindless husks. Their spirits were harvested by the glass. Casanova understood this truth. In the cold silence of Bohemia, he felt his decay accelerate as he polished the surface. The mirror is a vampire. It creates a living corpse. Yet facing the violence of death, Casanova chose this path. He locked his younger self within the glass. It was his only salvation. It was his inescapable curse. In the archives of Duchkov, he made his pact. The mirror does not reflect him. It devours him. Instead, it preserves the phantom of the legendary Casanova, forever entombed in the darkness beneath the surface. In the spring of 1798, Casanova's condition took a sudden, violent turn. Servants at Duchkov Castle left behind unsettling testimonies. They heard him arguing with someone in his bedchamber. They heard the sharp, eerie sound of claws scraping against glass. One maid recorded this in her diary. At midnight, I peered through the door. Casanova was standing before his mirror, but the reflection was not the old master. It was the master from his youth, arrogant and bursting with vitality. The master begged the mirror, screaming in terror. The reflection only smiled, cold and predatory, like a hunter studying its prey. This testimony is too detailed to be mere senile delusion. Records analyzing his mental state reveal a dark truth. Weeks before his death, he began losing his memories, fragment by fragment. The pages of the memoirs he had written would turn blank by morning. The mirror was consuming his life as fuel. With every memory lost, the reflection grew more vivid. The Murano masters knew of this forbidden ritual. It was not merely moving a soul, it was a circuit of transfer. It moved the essence of a human, memory and vitality, into the glass. The shadow within Casanova's mirror had grown tired of its cage. It hungered for the physical world. It craved the body as an interface for the living. On the day of his death, Casanova clutched the mirror. He locked eyes with his reflection one last time. The attending physician's records note a sudden, chilling anomaly. At that moment, all heat drained from Casanova's body. His skin turned pale and blue. Yet, in the mirror, the reflection flushed with vibrant, crimson blood. It pressed its fingertips against the glass, straining to break through. The mirror, the predator, finally drained its master dry. Casanova's soul was thrust into the inorganic darkness behind the glass, a void where light never reaches. And his final expression, that face twisted in absolute despair, was burned into the glass forever. He did not die. He became the eternal prisoner of the mirror he once loved. After Casanova's death, the mirror vanished into the shadows of history. But it was never truly lost. Once a mirror learns the taste of a soul, it develops a hunger. It begins to hunt for new inhabitants. Duchkov Castle is now a tourist attraction. Yet, some visitors speak of a strange, chilling experience. When they gaze into the ancient mirrors on display, they see something wrong. Their own eyes, reflected in the glass, move a fraction of a second after they blink. Is this Casanova's curse? Or is the mirror simply scouting for new memories, searching among us? A mirror is not merely a tool to reflect light. It is a fissure. It scrapes away the surface of our reality, allowing us to peer into the inverted cage that lies behind. You too will stand before a mirror, tonight or tomorrow morning. You will flick on the bathroom light. You will face your reflection as part of your daily routine. But in that moment, I want you to think. Are you truly seeing the you of the present? Does your reflection move a fraction of a second behind your own blink? Has the reflection in the glass ever worn a smile, a deeper, darker smile that you did not create? The shadow within the mirror is always ready. The moment you grow old, the moment your memory fades, the moment your soul loses its luster, they are waiting. They are waiting to reclaim a body. Do not look into the mirror. If you feel that the eyes staring back at you are lingering a moment too long, if they are watching you with a hunger of their own, then you may already be nothing more than a shadow for someone trapped within the glass.